Hello, everyone, and welcome to In the Know. My name is Susan Naylor, and I serve the church as the World Church Secretary and the Director for the First Presidency's Office. My co-host today is Jenn Killpack, who is the church's Director of Communications. Hi, Jenn.
Hey, Susan, it's good to see you. This In the Know series gives our viewers insights into some new and important resources, events, and it invites people to learn more about what's happening across Community of Christ. Today, we're excited to have guests with us from the Presiding Bishopric and from the Formation Ministries team. We're joined by Carla Long, member of the Presiding Bishopric, Tyler Marz, Formation Ministries Specialist, and Katie Harmon-McLaughlin, Director of Formation Ministries. It's so good to have you guys with us today.
It's great to be here. Thanks, Jenn.
Good to be
Thanks,
here.
Susan.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, and also, always, as always, a big shout out to our behind the scenes crew, Becca Loving and Kristen Mackay from Communications. So thanks for helping us keep track of chats and all the tech stuff behind the scenes.
Absolutely. Thank you. So today we are learning more about the focus of the Lenten season, and we're going to be hearing about the materials that have been and resources that have been created that will support us through this Lenten journey. If you have questions about these materials or anything we're talking about today, please drop those in the chat and we'll answer them as we're able to. So, Jenn?
Yeah, let's start today with you, Katie, and maybe a quick refresher on the season of Lent and why it's important to us in our faith journey.
Thanks, Jenn. So in Community of Christ, we follow the Revised Common Lectionary, which is really a way of saying it's how we live through the stories of Jesus throughout the year. And the season of Lent is the 6-week period in the Christian calendar between Ash Wednesday and Easter. It's a season of preparation for the Easter season. And it starts this year on Ash Wednesday, which is March 18th, 2026. So
I think it's February, isn't it? It's February 18th.
Yes, it is February 18th.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I was like, oh, let's not get too far away.
Yeah, I'm always living months ahead into the future. So
yes,
thank you,
you
Susan.
are. Keep going.
Yeah, so how does Community of Christ engage with this season? The season of Lent is a way that we live into the life and ministry of Jesus, which included his time of discernment, listening for God, and clarifying his mission and call. And so you may think back on that foundational Lenten scripture of Jesus's 40 days in the wilderness. Every year we cycle back to this wilderness time of our faith to pay attention. Are we focused on what matters most? Are we living with the same integrity and love of Jesus as we discern our response to the situation of our lives, communities, world, and planet? Are we embodying the kingdom of God in our actions or the empires of the world around us? Lent is a time to address the gaps in our words and behaviors, what we profess we believe, and how we actually live. It's a time to get serious about the gospel invitation in our lives. Some practice Lent through fasting and others through intentional practices. There is no right or wrong way to practice the season of Lent. The goal is to pay attention to where our hearts are. And so however a person or community is practicing, the goal is to clear space to recenter on the call of God in our lives and make sure our actions are aligned with what truly matters and who we are truly called to be.
This is a really helpful reminder for all of us, especially now as we approach this Lenten season. And it's an important time for each of us to find new ways to make room for Christ in our hearts. Over the last several years, we've had a general theme or a focus for Lent that's guided our journey together. So, Katie, can you tell us what's this year's focus and where are we going?
The Lent theme this year is Discern the Way of Faithfulness, and we're excited to be partnering in our resources with the Presiding Bishopric. We are focusing on economic justice and a posture of self-emptying love that embodies God's call to a new kind of community rooted in gospel living, generosity, mutual care, and creative abundance.
I love a good partnership. Carla, do you want to tell us a little bit more about how the presiding bishopric gravitated, toward this theme of economic justice?
I absolutely do. So for the last almost 3 years now, the presiding bishopric has been working toward 5 strategic priorities, and learning about, speaking about, and living economic justice is one of those 5. We have spent a great deal of time as a team in study and prayer and engaging in the kind of thoughtful conversations that has really stretched our perspective. We've been inspired by a new and broader understanding of generosity that points to a world where there is enough for all if we courageously and generously share. So this is not a new exploration for us as the presiding bishopric and the church, but it is a call to go deeper and expand our understanding of generosity and pursue practices and policies that lead us to a better world. And that is the heart of economic justice. Now, because these ideas have taken such a hold of our thoughts and our hearts, we were thrilled when Formation Ministries invited us to help shape this year's Lenten experience. It was exactly the opportunity we needed to share about what we've discovered together as a team. So like Katie said, we began our work with a single driving question. What does faithfulness through the lens of economic justice look like in our world today? And as we wrestled with that, we found ourselves returning again and again to 3 specific biblical themes: manna, jubilee, and wilderness. So throughout this Lenten season, you will find 2 written reflections and questions on each of those 3 topics. One is rooted in scripture, and one is drawn from lived experience. Now, to help bring these ideas home, we've also included weekly activities for families to explore together, and there will be some social media posts from bishops sharing their perspectives from all over the world. So you're going to get a lot of bishops this Lenten season. Now, this Lent, we are inviting you to join us in noticing the ways our culture's economic systems and practices often value profit over people and consumption over creation. This also speaks deeply to our enduring principle of sacredness of creation and the push at World Conference toward climate justice. We can see a lot of similarities between the 2. In our own journey, we felt Jesus calling us away from those patterns and toward a kingdom economy, a vision of the world grounded in generosity, fairness, and creative abundance. We're learning that when we practice letting go, we discover a deep, quiet joy that doesn't come from having more, but from living simply and sharing freely. We hope these resources help you as they have helped us to trust that God truly provides enough for all. Together, I hope we can discern the path of faithfulness and join in God's work of healing and wholeness in the world.
Thank you, Carla. What a fascinating connection that is. I heard you sneak in a little comment about climate justice in connection with economic justice. And I just wanted to throw out a little shout out for the Peace Forum, which seems like it's far away in October 16th through the 18th. But as we continue to talk about economic justice and climate justice and how that fits in our world, we can move this far beyond Lent, and make sure you have the Peace Forum marked on your calendar. So thanks for sharing with us today. So hearing about this topic and its connections to the Lenten season, how can we engage more with that concept? And who can tell us more about the specific resources and materials that people can use or have access to as we journey through Lent this year?
Thanks, Susan. Tyler and I can share a little bit about that. And I'll start by letting us know that on February 18th, Ash Wednesday, which is February 18th, in case anyone was wondering, we are going to have a live streamed prayer for peace, which we do every week from the temple. But this one will be led by the presiding bishopric, and we'll have a special invitation into the Lenten season through the lens that Carla just described. So we would encourage you to plan to join that, especially if you don't typically join the Prayer for Peace live stream. You will also find a lot of these themes woven throughout the Daily Bread Lenten journey. And we have a weekly practice that will be available that you can find in the worship helps on the Gathering Resources site. You'll notice that it is the same practice in every single service. And it's a practice that each week during Lent invites us to focus on a practice from St. Ignatius of Loyola, a meditation on the two kingdoms. And so we're really paying attention to, are we living into this kingdom economy, this vision of a new world that we describe as the kingdom of God? Or do we find ourselves, as Jesus in the wilderness, lulled into the status quo patterns of the kingdom of empire? And so every week we're going to be invited into this very simple practice of discernment. And if you're a worship planner or a participant in worship, we really hope that this is a meaningful practice that can become an embedded way of discerning that way of faithfulness throughout Lent. And I'll let Tyler share about the rest of the amazing resources that he's been working on.
Thanks, Katie. So one thing that we have going for us in Lent is, you may remember some video spiritual practices that we have been in the habit of producing during World Conference and during Advent, and you will see a few more for this Lenten season. So we will have one debuting on Ash Wednesday. That will be for our Lent season and those weeks, and then you will have one on Easter that will be coming out. These are videos that you can share in your worship services, mindful practices on your own, or however else you like to use them. As Carla mentioned, our focus on economic justice, we have a new edition of the When We Gather site. This is a site that we debuted during Advent that has resources focused on that season that are primarily for new expressions and new forms of gathering, as well as congregations wanting to explore creative elements to incorporate in their worship services. These can also be used for families or as sort of solo devotion moments. So as I describe a bit about the When We Gather site, again, our theme is focused on economic justice, and you'll find a whole host of conversation seeds written by the presiding bishopric and mission development ministers. You'll see many children and family activities underneath the love section. You will find youth lessons, movie recommendations, and of course, prayer and spiritual practices written from members around the globe in French, Spanish, and English. And I will turn the time back to Jenn.
All right, Tyler, is there anything else that you want to show on, now that I finally have this working for you, on the When We Gather?
Yeah, you're good. I mean, you're welcome to click on the Learn or Love tabs just briefly to see
Okay.
some of the things there, but um, we're really grateful for the bishopric and their efforts to produce some really great discussion topics with questions that we hope will be really meaningful and useful for folks, however they're gathering.
Nice. And you said the love section was the other one? yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, it looks like some really fun things.
Yeah, that's where you'll find all of these family activities that Carla mentioned.
Excellent. Okay. I'm gonna stop sharing for a second. So these are a lot of really, creative ideas and ways for people to get engaged with this content. So as we invite people into this season, what would your hope be for the church during Lent this year? And anybody can answer that.
I can go first. Honestly, my hope is super simple, and it's the hope that I have for myself every Lent. Eat less chocolate. Just kidding. I'm sure that there's roaring laughter all in the interwebs out there, but just kidding. That's kind of my hope, but my hope really is simple. And I'm echoing what Katie said earlier when she was speaking earlier. I hope that we can slow down, that we can simplify and clear space in our lives so that we can listen more deeply to God. I mean, Lent is a season for letting go of what distracts us or what consumes us, and for paying attention to what truly gives life. So, and I think once those distractions are limited, I think that we would be astounded to see where and how often God shows up. So slowing down, taking time to breathe, consuming less distractions, all of those are my hope for this Lenten season for all of us.
That's lovely.
Thanks, Carla. I was going to say, if I'm going to take Lent seriously this year, I might need to eat some more chocolate. And seriously, this is a really challenging moment that we're living in globally. In my context in the United States, it's been a very challenging couple of weeks. And one of the things that I find so powerful about the Christian calendar is that every year Lent comes and it finds us exactly as we are. And it's a perpetually prophetic invitation in the midst of whatever circumstances we find ourselves. And I think there's a lot of sacred power in that beyond our own just calendar planning of what's important to focus on, there is this spirit of the story of our faith that continues to inspire and empower and encourage us and call us to courageous response in the midst of what is happening in our communities and our world. And so my hope is that we would take Lent seriously this year, that we would be willing to pay attention to the Jesus we follow, who goes all the way to the cross, and discern what that means for each of us. And I think this focus on economic justice is so timely to think about, what are the systems that are promoting life and dignity and worth, and what are the systems that are dehumanizing and degrading people and the planet, and what is the call of God in the midst of those systems, in the midst of those two very distinct visions of the kind of kingdom we will live together. So my hope is that whether you eat less chocolate or need some more, you will find your heart in a place where it's open to the call of God in this precise moment.
Thanks, Katie.
Thanks, Katie. I'd have to say my hope for Lent is that folks find a way to creatively come together. I think Lent can often be a season where we might see that as journeying alone. But I hope we find ways to connect, whether that's using some of these resources that will be coming out, or simply just finding a way to gather together to feel supported and uplifted by each other in a time when we need that most.
Thanks, Tyler. I loved all of your reflections. I really hope people take advantage of some of these materials and these opportunities. To recap really quickly, I think some of the simple ways to engage with this content are to find it on Gathering Resources, to, if you're not already a subscriber, to subscribe to Daily Bread, and to be connected to the Seed of Christ social media channels. We'll also be putting up an announcement on seedofchrist.org in the news section that will have links to this content when it's all ready and available. So watch for that closer to Ash Wednesday. I'm looking in the chat to see if we have any questions. It looks like we have just some general thanks and support, some solidarity in chocolate eating. And I don't think I have any questions at this point. So, Susan, I think I'll turn it over to you.
I didn't want to unmute. So thank you. This has had a lot of new insights from everyone, and we hope that this has given a broader audience some new insights and information about the season of Lent and the opportunities and resources for spiritual growth and community formation. There's a lot to unpack, and we do it together. So a big thank you to Katie and Carla and Tyler, and to all of you for joining us on this episode of In the Know.
I think maybe I spoke too soon because now there's some questions. So there's a couple people who are referencing the worship helps specifically that are found on Gathering Resources. The March 1 service, it says refers to a candle lighting, but it isn't used in any of the other services. Tyler, do you want to talk a little bit about that maybe?
Yeah, so we have updated those resources. So if you perhaps printed that out several weeks ago, we have updated those since then. So those candle lighting references should have been updated to our current Lenten moment that's been added in there, the two kingdoms that Katie refers to in her spiritual practice.
Yeah, I don't know. Do you want me to pull that up really quick? I probably could. I'm looking at my other screen real fast. Okay, I'm going to share screen again, and we'll just make sure that we show people where to find these things. Okay, can you all see that okay?
Not yet. Now we can.
Okay, so on the Gathering Resources site, which you can find links to on seedofchrist.org or right here, if we go to the calendar, let's see. The first Sunday of Lent would be the 22nd. And once you click that, if you open worship tools or worship outlines, sorry, you can scroll down and find this Lenten worship moment, the two kingdoms. That's what Tyler, right? This is what you were talking about?
Yeah.
Or Katie. And this is something that will be available across all of the Lenten services, right, Tyler?
That is correct.
Okay. So if you would search into March, click on like the March 15 service, the worship outline, you would see that same Lenten worship moment that kind of invites us into that practice each week. So hopefully that answers that question. Let's see. Back over here. Olivia had a question about wanting to understand more about what I can use while planning. So I don't know if you want to talk a little bit, Tyler or Katie, about the worship resources and also, Tyler, the When We Gather site, just to provide a little bit more clarity for those two kind of main options.
That's a great question. So I'll speak to the When We Gather resource that will be going live just later this week. These are a bunch of tools that can be used to create a worship service or a gathering or even a midweek type of event. Using any of those resources on there, there are a few templates on there for how you might creatively put different elements together to create a sort of gathering or whatever it might be for you. You can certainly use a whole host of those elements during your worship services, whether that's for focus moments or instead of a sermon for your Sunday gathering, you might choose to have a discussion based on one of those conversation seeds that the bishopric put together. You might use those children's activities as a focus moment during a worship service, or again, you can use this to create a whole different type of gathering for your group that comes together.
Okay.
And in addition to the When We Gather, we have the gathering resources like Jenn, you were just showing, the worship outlines and all the other pieces that go with the worship planning. The When We Gather is just giving us more and more tools in our toolbox. And so feel free to mix and match as we go along.
Yeah. I think Olivia gave a little bit more clarification. She was asking about, this was more about regarding outside sources that are not included in resources.
So I can speak to that just a little bit.
Sure.
I believe it is live now, but if you go to the Gathering Resources webpage and you click on Plan and then Worship Basics, this will give you some info about the lectionary calendar that we talk so much about and what these different seasons are. But if you scroll down in there, you will see a few different book recommendations that give some helpful tips on how to create new and exciting ways for things during your worship services, as well as ways to more fully incorporate the lectionary and those seasons and some of these holidays that we celebrate throughout the year into your worship services. So I'd give those books a check as well. That might have some helpful information for you.
Thank you. Okay. Don't see anything else popping into the chat at the moment. So I will reiterate Susan's big thank you to Katie, Carla, and Tyler. Thanks for joining us today. It's been really good to hear about Lent and the connection that we're making to economic justice. We're going to close today with a brief blessing about joy, because sometimes joy feels far away, and the world can feel like a really rough place right now. And still, and yet, and God is with us. So this blessing is from one of my favorites. Her name is Kate Bowler. She's an author and a theologian. And this is her blessing on joy. Joy doesn't wait for the cleanup crew. It doesn't wait for the diagnosis to be resolved, or the relationship to mend, or the grief to loosen its grip. Joy shows up in the middle of things, the middle of exile, the middle of the mess, the middle of an unfinished world. And isn't that just like God, to send joy, not as a reward for resilience, but as a grace, a glimmer, a gift? Our hope for you is that you can be gifted with glimmers and with grace. We hope you have a great day, and we'll see you for the next episode.